Hello, my name is Steve and welcome to my channel. Now the project that I'm putting in front of you today is my 2016 Gibson SG Standard Traditional. When I bought it, it was the week of the 2018 releases, so it was actually discounted pretty steeply. Here's a shot of me with the people that I play with at church. That's a shot of it as close to original as I think I have of me with it. Here's another shot of my guitar with the original plastics on it. I took this at church. It was during one of those challenges where I had to take black and white pictures of my life and post it on social media. Now the first thing that I changed on this guitar was the tuning heads. The tuning heads that originally came on the guitar were those green tipped Kluson vintage style tuning heads. Now I'm not against those tuning heads, but they are not the most stable, especially with that infamous Gibson neck angle pitch. Here I've installed the Kluson Revolutions. These are 19:1 ratio tuners. They hold a lot more stable than the Gibson Deluxes that are installed originally on it. After that, I was looking at my guitar and I felt like the aesthetic was a little lacking, and I decided to switch out some of the plastics. I changed out knobs and the pickguard. With the white pickguard, I kind of feel like it's got that ebony Strat look to it. Not that I'm a Strat fan, but you know, the white pops. I was using the Planet Waves self-locking, ratcheting, whatever you want to call them, straps on this guitar. Now the thing about those straps is on this specific guitar, because the way the strap peg is on the back of the guitar, it didn't have a lot of room to move around. With that ratchet mechanism, it's kind of wide. After I had broken my second strap on that guitar in a month and a half using those Planet Waves, I decided to switch brands and go to maybe a locking strap. These are Locks brand strap blocks, and I chose these because they don't stick out like the other brands do, where they have kind of a tip that sticks out, and if you swing your guitar around a little too much, you kind of jab yourself with it. Here's a shot of all the accessories that I'll be installing today. Now, because Gibson uses PCB boards on the inside of the guitar, unfortunately I have to gut the whole thing out and start from scratch. Now I think it's great that we've gotten to a point in technology where we don't have to use traditional wiring, and a company like Gibson can make PCB boards that have all of the wiring built in, but unfortunately it's not really conducive to working on your guitar yourself. I started by undoing the cable ribbons that are installed. One of the cable ribbons goes to the three-way switch and two cable ribbons go to the pickups. Now, I didn't know that the three-way switch was not part of the PCB board, so I was able to salvage the original three-way switch off of the guitar, which, I mean, that was like a $20 part, so it made me feel pretty good. So I play this guitar at a church, and at times when you gotta be quiet and I'm standing up there with my guitar, I've got the volume turned all the way down, and I do a little bit of shifting, and just a little bit of would come through. After I disconnected the cable ribbons, I was able to remove all the nuts off the front of the guitar, and the PCB board slid right on out. No bending, no prying, nothing like that. Came out as one whole unit. Since I was having to gut the entire guitar anyways and start from scratch, I decided to use push-pull pots for my volume pots. Now, my neck volume pot is wired to phase reverse the guitar, and my bridge volume pot is wired to coil split. It's master coil split, so it splits the coils on both. Here's a couple shots of the three-way switch that I was able to salvage out of the guitar. So I decided to use 18 gauge speaker wire, and that wasn't because I thought it would provide better tone or anything like that. It's just by the time I got around to wiring this guitar, it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and going to Fry's to get smaller gauge wire was not an option. Here's a shot of the wiring almost completely done, and here it is. Took me quite a few hours, spent about 5 hours wiring this all, triple checking the diagrams because, you know, I wanted to get it right the first time. So I got the jack put in, and I got the volume turned up, I got my amp cranked, and I ring out the strings and nothing happens. No sound is coming through the guitar. So I call up my buddy Dan. He is the owner of Musical Mechanics and a luthier. Great guy. If you ever need work done in the Elko, Nevada area, definitely check him out. So I call up Dan and I explain to him everything that's happening. And after talking it through, he basically decides either I wired the pickups wrong or somewhere there's a ground lead that is shorting my system. When I purchased all my parts, I didn't realize that I grabbed a stereo jack. The stereo jack has 2 prongs on it, and without looking at the jack thoroughly, I think to myself, hey, if I bridge the 2 pins together, then I'll have more contact. I will have greater sound, better tone, whatever have you. Here is a shot of the jack when I installed it. So I installed a little wire that would connect both the pins that would touch the jack. What I didn't realize is that using a mono cable means that bridging those together actually grounds out the system. That's where my sound problem was coming in. It took me about 2 to 3 hours to figure this out and get it corrected. Once I have that corrected, I jack it in. I've got sound coming out of the guitar. Everything works. Push-pull works on both of them. Tone knobs roll off tone. Everything is looking hunky-dory. So now it's time to button up the system. I start screwing down the nuts on the front of the guitar. I get through both tone pots. I get to the volume pot, and the threads seem to be endless. I just keep turning the wrench that I'm using. Turn, turn, turn. Now, as much as I'd like to believe that I have gorilla strength, at no point when I was tightening down the pots did I feel resistance enough that I would think to myself, well, maybe it's almost tight. Apparently, I over-tightened to the point that the threads separated. Here goes another call to my buddy Dan at Musical Mechanics, and he gave me the best idea I could have come across, and that was to use Gorilla Glue to secure the threads back against the pot. At this point, I was freaking out, thinking I was going to have to rewire the entire guitar, and since both threads broke, I was thinking maybe at this point I just had to get traditional pots and rewire it just traditional, and I wouldn't get this extra wiring fun. But that Gorilla Glue did the trick. After I got home with the Gorilla Glue, I let it set overnight, and the next morning, Sunday morning, I was able to put everything back together on the guitar, and everything worked. Now, I do feel it's important to note that the push-pull pots were a bit large for the cavity, and I had to take my Dremel and grind out some of the control cavity cover so that my cover would sit flush with the guitar. I don't have any pictures of that, and unfortunately I left my guitar at church. That's where I usually leave it. It just makes it easier for transportation. I didn't get any tones from the guitar either. Now, I do have an upcoming project. I ordered a string butler for this guitar. If you don't know about the string butler, what that does is it puts the strings straight through the nut, so that way you don't have that bend that you get on Gibsons where it's about a 7.5 degree pitch to the left trying to get to the tuning peg. So look out for that video. Should be up within the next week. I will install the string butler and we will go over the tuning stability, and I'll get some tones out of the guitar. Thank you so much for watching my video. Like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in future videos.